In this tutorial, what we're going to be covering is using a CSS class rule to create a smooth transition between hovering on an object. We're going to apply this directly to our navigational menu. So when you hover over your links, the background color will slowly change into the header color and slowly back to the gray after you're no longer clicking on it. So in this class so far, we've covered two ways of adding CSS rules. One, in the CSS designer we add a selector. Additionally, in the properties section where we edit the rule. And there's a third way where you go to the direct style file, and to do that you'll notice when the file's open, you're on the source code section. You just click the style.css tab, and this will allow you to directly write into your code. Now, it is a lot simpler than you may think. You just go to the first line that's empty, line 45 here for my sake, and we're going to apply a class rule. So with class rules, you always start with a period, and then we'll just call it nav-links because we can't put spaces. And to start the rule, you have to have the first bracket, which is done by holding Shift to make it work. It's just below the plus symbol. It's just the upper character, not the lower character. That's why you have to hold Shift. And then you press Enter to add our first line item, and we're going to be using transition duration. The way this rule works is off of time, so you can do 1s for 1 second, or you could do something like 500 ms for 500 milliseconds. We're going to use 1 second. To close an element within a rule, you use the semicolon. That just lets you know that the next line item you could add an additional rule if necessary. Since we don't need one, we're just going to close the bracket, which finishes the nav-links rule. Now, this rule doesn't really do anything until you add a secondary rule onto it. We'll use the CSS designer for this one, and you can see we have nav-links below. We're going to right-click it and duplicate it. Now what we need to do is add a rule to go on top of it for hovering. This is what's really going to make it come to life. So to do so, all you have to do is press the colon symbol, and this will give you a list of rules for basically how do you want this element to act. So you can see these two we're going to be really focusing are the hover and the active. Hover means when your mouse goes over the object. Active means when you click it. So now that we have nav-links and nav-links hover, we just have to add one more rule to make this really come together. We need to add a background color, because you can make the delay happen, but if there's nothing to show, nothing will happen. So the color code for black is pretty simple. It's just 6 zeros. So if you're ever looking to do that in the future, it's just that. So now we have, you can see here, nav-links and nav-links hover. We need to apply these classes now to all of our links here. Now you don't want to be applying it to your A, or your active element, that's where the link is. We want to be applying it to the TD, or the table cell. So nav-links. And then we go to the next one. Make sure you have TD selected. Nav-links. Make sure again you have TD selected. Nav-links. TD selected again. Nav-links. And TD selected again. Nav-links. And with any luck now, we should have a pretty interactive menu bar. And I'll just bring it into the screen to be viewed. And when we hover over here now, you'll notice that there's this nice transitional look to your links. So that is the transition delay rule. One thing to keep in mind is, since these are class rules, although they will work on every one of your pages, if you have created additional pages already, those rules will not necessarily be applied to those objects. So if you go to another link, you may notice that the links aren't hovering, That's simply because you need to apply that class to your navigational menu. It's a simple rule, but it can make it have a very nice clean look that really can show when you're designing pages that it just kind of gives that overall pro look to it. That's it for this tutorial, and the next one will again be covering more design elements of your web page.